Have you ever really thought about what's keeping you alive right this very second? It's not just one big thing. It's actually trillions of tiny microscopic cities called cells. And every single one of them is constantly solving this life or death logistics problem. So today, let's pull back the curtain on their secret traffic system. I want you to picture a city, but it's sealed inside a giant dome. It's got to get food and fuel in, and it's got to get all its garbage out. That's the exact puzzle a cell is solving every moment of every day. Its membrane, that outer layer, is the gatekeeper, controlling everything that comes and goes. So how in the world does it pull this off? Well, it uses three absolutely brilliant systems. All right, so the first and, the most basic system is really just nature doing its thing. It's called diffusion, and you can think of it as the path of least resistance. Now here's the really cool part about this. It requires zero energy from the cell. Nothing. It's an incredibly efficient system that's powered just by the random, chaotic movement of particles. They just naturally spread out from where they're all crowded together to where there's a bit more elbow room. It's just like when you put a drop of food coloring in a glass of water, right? It just spreads out all on its own. It's basically physics acting as a free delivery service. So let's walk through it. Say you've just had lunch, so there's a whole bunch of glucose, that's sugar, outside your cells. It's super crowded out there. Inside the cell, not so much. So those glucose molecules, which are just jiggling around randomly, naturally start to move into the cell where there's more space. And this just keeps happening until things are more or less balanced out. It works the other way too. When a cell creates waste like carbon dioxide, it gets crowded inside, so the CO2 just naturally flows out. It's such a simple, elegant process. But is this flow always the same speed? No way. A few things can really hit the accelerator. For one, a larger surface area means there are more doors for particles to pass through. Higher temperature, well, that just gives everything more energy to move around faster. A steeper gradient, meaning a huge difference between the crowded side and the empty side, creates a much stronger push. And of course, a shorter distance just means a quicker trip. Makes sense, right? Okay, so diffusion handles a lot of the traffic. But what about water? Water is the solvent for literally everything happening inside a cell, so it's absolutely crucial. And as it turns out, water plays by a slightly different set of rules. And that's because the cell membrane is what we call selectively permeable. It's a little bit picky. In this special rule for water, it has a name: osmosis. It's basically a special type of diffusion, but it's only for water moving across that picky membrane. Think of the membrane as a bouncer at a club. It lets the water molecules through the velvet rope no problem, but it's a lot stricter with everything else. Now, here's a really crucial idea. We can't really talk about the concentration of water, because water is the thing that everything else is dissolved in. So instead, scientists use this term called water potential. And the easiest way to get it is this. Pure water has the highest potential to move. It's free. But the more stuff you dissolve in it, like salt or sugar, the more those water molecules get kind of distracted, interacting with those other particles. They're less free to move, so the water potential goes down. So that leads us to the official rule. Water will always move from an area of high water potential, which is a dilute solution, to an area of low water potential, a more concentrated solution. It's still flowing downhill. It's just a different kind of hill, one that's defined by water's freedom to move around. Okay, so what does this actually mean for a cell? Let's imagine we take a plant cell and we drop it into a glass of pure water. Outside the cell, the water is dilute, so it has a really high water potential. But inside the cell, the cytoplasm is chock full of salts and sugars, so it has a lower water potential. So, which way do you think the water's going to go? You got it. Water rushes into the cell. Now, in an animal cell, this would be terrible news. It would burst like an overfilled water balloon. But a plant cell has a super tough, rigid cell wall. So as water rushes in, the cell just swells up and becomes really firm or turgid. That pressure is actually what keeps plants standing upright and their leaves nice and firm. It is a brilliant piece of biological engineering. All right, let's flip the scenario. What if we put that same cell into a really concentrated, salty solution? Well, now the water potential is higher inside the cell, and it's lower outside in all that salty water. And the result is water rushes out of the cell. This causes it to shrink and become limp or flaccid. If it loses way too much water, the cytoplasm can actually pull away from the cell wall. And you've seen this happen in real life. It's why plants wilt if you forget to water them. It's just osmosis in action, right there in your garden.
So, diffusion and osmosis are great for going with the flow. But what happens when a cell needs something that's already more crowded inside than it is outside? Or what if it needs to push waste out into a space that's already packed? Diffusion isn't going to work. The flow is going in the completely wrong direction.
For this kind of job, the cell needs a VIP pass. It needs a powered-up system that can actually force things to move against the natural flow. And that system is called active transport. This is the total opposite of diffusion. We're talking about moving particles against the concentration gradient, from low to high. And as you can imagine, that takes energy. This isn't just floating downstream anymore. This is actively paddling upstream, and that takes work. The cell actually has to pay for this service with energy it gets from respiration. So how does this amazing process work? Well, embedded in the cell membrane, there are these special protein carriers that act like tiny little pumps. A molecule that the cell needs, say a mineral ion from the soil, comes along and binds to one of these proteins. Then the cell spends a little bit of energy, the protein changes its shape, and it literally shoves the molecule through to the other side. This is so important for things like absorbing all the nutrients from your food or allowing your nerves to send signals. It's the cell's ultimate power move. Okay, so we've covered the three big traffic systems for a cell. We've got the easy, passive flow of diffusion, the special case of osmosis, just for water, and the powered-up pump of active transport. Now let's put them all side by side. Look at this breakdown. Diffusion moves particles down the gradient, and it needs no energy. Osmosis, that's just for water, also moves down its potential gradient, and again, no energy required. And then there's active transport. It moves particles against the gradient, and for that, it absolutely requires energy from the cell. These three processes are working together all the time in a constant dynamic dance to keep the cell in perfect balance. So the next time you eat a meal or just take a breath, remember this incredibly intricate, invisible traffic system. Billions of tiny pumps and passive flows all working in perfect harmony inside you. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other incredible microscopic engines are at work inside you right at this very moment?